How y'all doing today? Welcome to Chris's Chop House. So today we're working on this F150, and the problem is I got a slight coolant leak. So you see there's no coolant in the reservoir, and I've been seeing a little bit of coolant dripping out slowly over time. So it's a slow leak. And then I saw, all right, so this is the throttle body here. No. So this is the throttle body, and then right under it is the water pump. So that pulley right there is the water pump. And then I'm gonna see if I can't zoom in here. Right under there, it is tough to see, but there is some, let me try to change the angle here. Right up under there, there's some coolant in that spot right there on the bottom of the water pump. So that means I got a slow leak happening right down there. I don't know how well you can see that, but it's right down in there. Sorry, I'm trying to make it zoom, but it's in the light. So yeah, right down in there. I don't know if you can faintly see, it's a little wet right there. Some coolant. So what we're going to do today is we're going to replace the water pump. While we're doing it, we're going to definitely change the serpentine belts, because while you're doing this, you might as well. This truck has 130,000 miles on it, so it's a good time to change the serpentine belts. And we're going to top it off with coolant. We're going to check the thermostat while we're at it, make sure the thermostat's good, and we should be good to go. So step one in doing this, yes, I have a cold air intake on this truck, so but taking it off is just like taking off the regular air intake. We're going to undo it here at the throttle body. We're going to undo it over here at the box. Take this tube out, unhook it, just got a couple of connections to it. Then we're going to undo the throttle body, move the throttle body out of the way, and then we can start working on the water pump. But remember, first things first, undo the negative on the battery. Okay, so that's what we're going to do first. Undo the negative and start tearing this thing apart. I'm going to try to set this up so you can see my work. As I go. These are 8mm sockets. Undo this clip. Undo the mass airflow sensor. Eight millimeters. That one looks a little funny. These were not snug down tight, and this has never been off the car before, so must be how it came from the factory. Keep this down. Okay. All right, there. Hey. Alright, the throttle body is off. We're gonna clean that real good. Yeah, we're gonna clean that real good before we put it back on. Just slide that up out of the way. Now we can really get to see the water pump. So we need to take this off, take that off. So this is just a clamp here, and this will come off. There's actually a little pin holding this in place. So we gotta just get a little pick, take that pin off. Probably would make sense to put a bucket up under you so you can catch the coolant. Hey, how you doing, sir? Good. Flattening out right here. I replaced this one a while back. Okay, so while the belt's on, we're gonna go ahead. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and loosen these bolts. 10mm bolts here, so that way it doesn't move while we're loosening it. Then this is where the thermostat housing is. We're gonna loosen it here, and then we'll take the belt off and take the water pump off. Actually, you can see the problem right now. Look at this. You can see that wobble in the water pump. That bearing was going bad. That was causing a whining noise I was hearing. But it shouldn't have that kind of play in it. You don't want to take it all the way off. Now we're going to remove the throttle body and then the belt. So one thing I always do is I draw the belt. Just going around the water pump, coming down around the tensioner pulley, going around it, going around the main crank, and then going around the alternator, coming back. So you want to draw that up just so you don't forget it, or take a photo at least. And you got to remember the orientation of the belt, because one side has ridges and one side doesn't. So if you put it on the wrong way, even if it's the right orientation, if you got the belt inside out, you're not getting the maximum power out of your car. You're probably going to have all kinds of slippages and issues. So you got to keep that in mind. But we're going to undo this throttle body, which looks like two 8mm bolts. We're going to check the thermostat while we're at it. Yep, there go the rest of it. Some of you may ask why not drain from the radiator, and that's because you don't really need to. I mean, these cars are made to get wet, these F150s. There's nothing keeping this engine dry. If you look around it, the entire engine is completely exposed to the elements, so it's completely watertight. You don't have to worry about draining it like that. That way you don't lose as much coolant either. You're just losing the coolant around the block. You're not losing the coolant in the radiator, or most of the pipes at least. Okay, so that's the throttle body. I mean, not throttle, excuse me, the thermostat housing. And we got to remove this bolt, slide this out, and then we'll take the belt off. Also 8mm. It's a little shorter. And this thing should just slide out. Rock it gently. You don't have time to go to the dealership. Should just pop out, but it is not wanting to move out of that hole. Oh, there we go. Moved a little bit. There we go. It's moving now. Yeah. As you can see, I think you can see, it's been held in. It was held in by O-ring. The O-ring looks good though. Just dirty, but it looks good. Slide that out the way. Slide this out the way. All right, now I'm gonna doodle down the pump, the pulley, I just gotta remember that the belt faces down, ridges down across the water pump. And then I am going to use a 15mm wrench, loosen up this belt tensioner, and relieve the pressure and take the belt off. So of course the battery died while I was trying to pull out the water pump. So I'm just going to explain exactly how I did it. It's not that difficult and you didn't miss much. So I loosened the belt tensioner, removed the belts. I finished removing the screws off the water pump pulley. I then pulled the pulley off the water pump so that way I had more access to the 4 bolts that held it in place. I believe the bolt was there are 4 10mm bolts around the water pump, 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom. Once you've removed those bolts, which aren't that difficult, you then have to gingerly zigzag or left and right the water pump out of the motor because it is a really tight fit. And you just have to gently pull it. And I remind everybody not to use too many pry bars or different tools because you don't want to destroy the mating surface between the new water pump and the engine. If you get any scars in the mating surface, you create a leak point for the new water pump, and your new water pump may be good, but you still have a leak in your coolant system. So try your best to just gingerly pry out the old water pump. In some cases they may just come out, and that's all you missed. Okay, yeah, sorry about the glare, everybody. It's the angle of the sun. There's the water pump, it's out. I don't know why they do this, but the plastic propeller was clearly on its way out, so could not really slide this thing out easily. So now I'm gonna clean it up and then I'll join you back in a second. Okay, sorry about the weird angle, y'all. So let me see if I can do it like this. Okay, I got the water pump out. It's cleaned. I'm going to put that one bolt I took out back because I didn't realize that wasn't part of the scope here. I got the one new belt on here. So let me show you a little cheat code here. So right here at this belt tensioner, you're going to want to loosen up. Loosen up the belt. Move my hand. There we go. You want to loosen up the belt tensioner, and that's going to allow that belt to slide by. It is a really tight fit between the main crank and that belt tensioner. But as soon as you loosen that up, pull it up a little bit, it'll slide right through. And then you got to run it around the back side of that belt tensioner there, and then you can finish putting it together. So that belt, the new belt is on. We've cleaned the hole here for the new water pump. Here's the new water pump here. Let me zoom out a little bit. I've already put on the new gasket for it, and you can see here this actually has a metal propeller. The other one was plastic, so this is going to be a little bit higher quality. Nice tight spin, and so the key here is we got to slide it in place. And once we slide it, we have to slide it in without sliding it back and forth because that can cut up the O-ring we just put on. So let's get after it. Okay, so here we go. You're seeing me slide the water pump in. Sorry for obstructing your view with my arm. It's just even for a truck, it's kind of a tight space with a camera to really get the angle. But I'm just lightly putting the water pump in place. I haven't pushed it in yet. I'm gonna use the screws as a guide. So I'm going to start to twist all the screws in 5 or 6 turns. So that way I know the water pump is aligned to the engine. And then that will allow me to push the water pump straight back without creating any unnecessary force on the O-ring and cutting the O-ring up. So once again, I'm using the screws as a guide to push the water pump up into the cavity of the engine without creating any undue force on those O-rings. Please use that method. It's great for this because this water pump fits really tightly in that engine cavity. Okay, so welcome back. The water pump is in place. The serpentine belt is in place. I tightened this down. So I set mine to 177 foot-pounds as it says in the specs, but I really couldn't get it past about 40 foot-pounds. So, but it felt super snug, and so that's where I'm gonna leave it because I don't want to over tighten this. I got the thermostat back on. The thermostat's perfectly fine, so I'm not going to change. I'm going to save that money. It looks perfect in there, like brand new. There is an O-ring right here that we have to replace. It comes with the water pump. So I got a little pick here. We're going to make sure they're the same size, or at least similar. Let's see. Yep, they're pretty much similar. So we're gonna go ahead and just replace that O-ring. All right, new O-ring in place. We're gonna slide this back down. Okay, we should go ahead and get the pulley back on now. I'm gonna clean the pulley up real quick. All right, we got the pulley clean. We're gonna go ahead and start threading them through. All right, I got one started, so the rest should be pretty easy. And we're just gonna get these hand tight, because once we get the pulley on, we can, the serpentine belt on, we can tighten it down how we want it. I believe we're tightening this down to 18 foot-pounds of torque. So it's just really snug. I mean, at the end of the day, you just want it really snug. Just go ahead and put this bolt back in place. Goes right here. There we go. I'll snug these up. Alright, so we got those snugged up. Now it's time to put the serpentine belt back on. I'm just going to take a little brake cleaner, spray all these pulleys down and wipe them down one more time, just so we don't have any squeaking. We don't want squeaky squeaky. It's the last thing we want. Running a little low on brake cleaner. For what we're doing today, we also can spray a little 99% isopropyl alcohol. We just want to make sure we have no squeaky squeaky. Okay. So now if you guys remember, we drew our design. We're gonna get our new belt now. Okay. That's all put back together. Let's put the throttle body back on now. Okay, so you're not going to put the throttle body back on quite yet. You're actually going to put back on that coolant hose, that 3 or tri-way coolant hose. Connect that back into the thermostat housing, to the engine block, and then of course you have the one radiator hose that goes across the front into the top of the radiator. Put that piece on first. Put all the pins, the rings back in to lock them all, the lock rings back in place. And make sure you clean everything up too, and put it all back. Then you put the throttle body back on, tighten everything snug, and install your your cold air intake or air box system. And last but not least, please do not forget to reconnect your mass air sensor. If you do not connect your mass air sensor, your car will not run effectively. It will not run well at all, actually, because the computer can't tell the engine how much air it's getting. So once again, the last few pieces are the tri-piece coolant hose. Then you put the radiator hose back in place, and then to connect to the top of the radiator, the throttle body, air box system, and lastly, reconnect the mass airflow sensor. Hope you enjoyed the video, everybody. Have a wonderful day. See you on the next one.